Dragon SpaceX for side hatch leak check.
And go ahead for side hatch leak check.
Yeah, Dragon, they are seeing a drop, an unexpected drop in their side hatch leak check hardware. They are going to reopen hatch to investigate. No more words at this time.
Okay, Dragon copies, and we'll stay in pad hatch closed there soon.
And stand by, we're discussing that. Negative, we're going to go to pad hatch reopen temporarily.
Dragon copies.
Dragon SpaceX for troubleshooting timeline.
And go ahead for timeline.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that we do have about 10 minutes of margin in the schedule for this troubleshooting.
And 10 minutes before they need to start closing the hatch again.
That is correct. Yeah, 10 minutes till hatch close, and they're taking a look at the CO at this time.
Dragon copies.
Dragon SpaceX for status.
And go ahead for Dragon.
Yeah, the team did find a possible root cause. They are checking cabin environments, and we're getting ready to close the hatch again.
Okay, Dragon copies, and we see pad hatch closed, prep.
Copy. And Dragon SpaceX hatch is closed.
Dragon copies, do the same.
Dragon SpaceX for status.
And go ahead for Dragon.
Okay, the leak check hardware is connected, and we're holding pressure now. Still in progress.
Dragon copies, and that's good news.
Yeah, and I will provide some more words on what they identified during my post-ingress brief.
Okay, Dragon copies, and I assume we still have some more time on the leak check.
That's affirmed. Yeah, they're still performing it.
Dragon.
Dragon, SpaceX for Falcon 9 comm checks.
And go ahead for Falcon 9 comm check.
Okay, if you are ready, we are going to kick those off.
Dragon's ready.
Dragon, GNC on countdown 1, comm check.
And GNC, this is Dragon on countdown 1. Have you loud and clear.
GNC loud and clear, stand by for comm check by propulsion.
Dragon, prop on countdown 1, comm check.
And prop Dragon on countdown 1. Have you loud and clear.
Prop loud and clear, stand by for comm check with avionics engineer.
Dragon, avionics on countdown 1, comm check.
Avionics, this is Dragon on countdown 1. I have you loud and clear.
Avionics loud and clear, stand by for comm check by the ground segment engineer.
Dragon, ground segment on countdown 1, comm check.
Ground segment, this is Dragon on countdown 1. We have you loud and clear.
Ground segment loud and clear, stand by for comm check by launch control.
Dragon, launch control on countdown 1, comm check.
Launch control, this is Dragon on countdown 1. Loud and clear.
Launch control, loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by the chief engineer.
Dragon, CE on countdown, comm check.
CE, this is Dragon. Hans, we have you loud and clear on countdown.
CE, loud and clear. This completes the Falcon 9 responsible engineer comm checks. Safe flight.
Correct.
Dragon, SpaceX for pad hatch closed, launch escape checks.
And go ahead for pad hatch closed checklist.
Okay, Resilience, at this time we're going to commence health check for the launch escape system. You can expect a momentary flight computer state change followed by a transition back to pad hatch closed.
Dragon copies, and we're monitoring.
Dragon SpaceX for side hatch leak check.
And go ahead for the side hatch leak check.
Okay, good news. The leak check has passed, and we saw consistent readings to what we saw on dry dress. So it looks good.
That's great news, SpaceX.
Dragon, SpaceX for post-ingress brief when you're ready.
And Dragon is ready with the post-ingress brief.
Copy. Starting with weather, we are currently go with no significant changes from the pre-ingress brief, and we are trending in a good direction.
Okay, Dragon copies. From a weather standpoint, we're still go and trending in good direction.
Good readback. From the Dragon side, only issue that we observed was the leak check failure on the side hatch. That seal is vented, and there was too much of the vent visible, so the seal was rolled to the correct position. The team also applied an extra strip of lubricant and removed a small piece of FOD. And as you heard, the leak check has passed, the second one. And they also completed the continuity check, and that was nominal.
Okay, Dragon copies for the side hatch leak check. They did find some FOD, and they did all the corrective actions, and we had a good leak check.
Good words. And to wrap it up, on the Falcon side, the team did observe some discoloration coming out of weep holes at the bottom of the inner stage. For thoroughness, the team looked at the grid fin system and the stage 2 and verified that all systems are healthy, indicating that this is water from condensation coming out of those weep holes. This issue has been closed out as go for flight.
Okay, we copy. There was some water condensation from the inner stage that was observed, but it's all been closed out. That's good news.
All right, good words on all. And at this time, this is all we are tracking. Let us know if you have any questions.
Okay, Dragon copies all, and no questions at this time.
Copy. Next up will be my call to you at T-minus 1 hour.
Okay, Dragon copies, standing by.
Dragon SpaceX, the closeout team has departed the crew arm, and we are running ahead of schedule with about 15 minutes of margin.
Okay, Dragon copies. Closeout team has departed the white room and the crew access arm. And copy on the timeline. That's all good news.
Dragon SpaceX for tank valve cycling.
And go ahead for tank valve cycle.
Yeah, just a heads up, we're waiting for the closeout team to clear the VDA. Once that's complete, we're going to cycle the tank valves to equalize the manifold pressure. This is the same thing we executed yesterday earlier this week during dry jets.
Okay, we copy that, and Jay, your call's coming in a little bit soft, and we're losing you kind of at the end of them.
Copy all on that call, and I'll let you know when we're ready for that tank valve cycling.
Okay, Dragon copies, and that was much better, thank you.
we see on countdown, the technical team has been pulled and is ready to proceed into the propellant load. Thank you.
As a reminder, step 55.72 is open for propellant load go, no-go buys. control is complete and the team is ready for crew access arm retract, propellant loading, and launch. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD and they will approve aborting the launch auto sequence and proceed into launch abort. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold, hold, hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into the launch abort auto sequence. Operators advise launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. In the event of a fire alarm at firing 4 today, key operators noted below will remain at their post while the alarm is evaluated. In the event that personnel safety is threatened, evacuate to the south-facing emergency exit, which leads directly south. Launch control, you may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
Copy, arming crew arm. Crew arm stow is running.
Hide crew arm stow is complete.
Launch escape system is verified armed.
Launch auto sequence has started. Propellant load has started. Start of stage 1 cryohelium load. start of stage 2 cryohelium load. Stage 2 fuel load is complete. Stage 2 LOX load has started.
your resilience. We're honored to have you as our crew as we begin operational missions to the ISS. Have an amazing trip, and know that we are all for one.
Thanks, Jay. And to all the people at NASA and SpaceX, by working together through these difficult times, you've inspired the nation, the world, and in no small part, the name of this incredible vehicle, Resilience. And now it's time for us to do our part, Crew One for all.
Okay, all. Thanks, Hopper.
Stage 1 engine chill has started. Stage 1 fuel load is complete. Dragon is in configure for terminal count. Dragon is on internal power. Falcon 9 propellant tanks are pressurizing for strongback retract. Stromberg is retracting. Dragon is in terminal count. Stage 1 LOX load is complete. Stage 2 LOX load is complete. Dragon is in auto idle. Ground gas closeout is starting. Dragon is in countdown. FDS is armed. Falcon 9 is in startup and is now controlling.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
SpaceX, this is Resilient. Roger, go.
T-minus 30 seconds, all for one, crew one for all. T-minus 15 seconds.
Falcon 9 is configured for flight.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff.
1 Alpha.
Roger, 1 Alpha. Godspeed, Resilience.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
M1D propulsion is nominal.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Stage 1, throttle down.
Falcon 9 is supersonic. Max Q.
Stage 1, throttle up.
1 Bravo.
Roger, 1 Bravo.
MVAC engine chill started. Stage 1, throttle down. And we have Miko.
2 Alpha.
Stage separation confirmed.
Roger, 2 Alpha.
12, acquisition of signal.
MVAC ignition.
Dragon SpaceX trajectory nominal.
Acquisition of signal,
Copy.
Bermuda.
Nominal trajectory.
Dragon SpaceX trajectory nominal.
Copy. Nominal trajectory.
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Copy. Nominal trajectory.
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Copy. Nominal trajectory.
Stage 1 FTS is saved. Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Stage 2 internal guidance.
Shannon.
Roger, Shannon.
MVAC shutdown.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal orb insertion.
Launch escape system is disarmed.
And SpaceX copies.
Expected loss of signal, Cape Canaveral.
acquisition of signal in Newfoundland.
Dragon separation confirmed.
Dragon separation confirmed.
Dragon SpaceX, we see nominal service section Draco checkouts and the humidifier activation.
And SpaceX, this is Dragon. We copy all and we see the same.
Countdown 1 is unmerged.
Acquisition of signal, go on heli.
Dragon SpaceX, we do see the alerts. We're checking. Stand by.
Copy.
Dragon SpaceX for TCS.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we can confirm, despite your alerts, Loop Bravo is healthy, and we're seeing the expected response. We did fail over Loop Bravo, and we'll give you more words shortly.
It has been an incredible day with the launch of Crew 1 from Kennedy Space Center, NASA's first official long-duration mission for our commercial crew program.
So exciting. What an amazing day. We watched the crew as they suited up. We watched them ingress on Crew Dragon. We had an on-time liftoff at 7:27 p.m. Eastern Time. Stage 1 came back and landed back on Just Read the Instructions. We got confirmation of Dragon separation as well as nose cone deploy.
Yes, nose cone deploy came back clear, and we also had some good forward Draco checkouts. So all good news there as the crew continues on the way to the International Space Station. And as we said, the mission has only just begun. Right now, NASA astronauts Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, Shannon Walker, and Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Soichi Noguchi are flying free inside Dragon after that successful separation from Falcon 9. And now we've got about 27 hours until they arrive at the space station, and we'll be here with you for the entire trip.
Immediately after the Dragon spacecraft separated from Falcon 9, it began what we call the activation and rendezvous phase of the mission. During this phase, Dragon is configured for on-orbit operations. The phase begins after separation of Dragon from Falcon 9 and ends with the completion of the final co-elliptic burn. Our initial orbit today is 210 kilometers by 190 kilometers, with those values representing the perigee and the apogee of the orbit, or the lowest and the highest point over the Earth. That means that the orbit isn't a perfect circle, but more like a very slight ellipse.
Dragon SpaceX, next burn is per your displays, and have some more words on TCS.
Okay, and SpaceX Dragon is ready to copy.
Okay, it looks like during activation, Loop Alpha had a pressure spike, which caused Fitter to trip and fill over to Loop Bravo. However, we do believe that Loop Alpha is healthy, and we're troubleshooting to understand what our plan to recovery is. However, we are go for the burn in the current TCS configuration.
Okay, SpaceX Dragon copies. We had a pressure spike on Alpha, Fitter swap to Bravo, and you do think Alpha is heavy, or is healthy, and you'll get us more words later on how we'll get it back, and we are go for the burn coming up in approximately 19 minutes.
Yeah, good copy on TCS. Regarding the go for the burn, we're still assessing our overall go for the vehicle. However, TCS is in an acceptable configuration.
Okay, yeah, Dragon copies.
And we are also still assessing cabin environment, and I expect to give you some more words on that shortly for suit offing.
Dragon copies.
So those were words from the core, the crew operations and resources engineer here in Hawthorne, to our crew aboard Crew Dragon. They did have an issue with the TCS, or the thermal control system. And you heard another acronym there, the FITTER. That's the fault detection and isolation. It's an automated system to respond to any issues that arise. There was a pressure pump spike on a pump in the thermal control system, and Dragon auto switched to Bravo. We do have 2 fault tolerance on Crew Dragon, and the flight controllers still believe that the pump that had a pressure spike is functional. But the key thing is that we are still continue to go with the nominal burn plan. So over the next 27 hours, Dragon will execute a series of burns, which will gradually raise its orbit to align more closely with the station. There are 5 major burns, or firing, of the Draco thrusters on Dragon that will bring the spacecraft close to station before we begin final approach maneuvers. The first, which you may have heard them discuss, is the phase burn. This is performed at the first apogee, or the highest point of the initial orbit, and it raises Dragon's perigee, or its lowest point, to a higher altitude.
The next burn, which is based on what our orbital data shows us, is the boost burn, which raises Dragon's orbit until its orbit reaches an altitude of just 10 kilometers lower than the space station. Followed soon after, the followed soon after by the close co-elliptic burn to place Dragon on an orbit roughly co-elliptic with the space station. This means that the crew will be about 10 kilometers lower than the station during their entire orbit around the Earth. The fourth maneuver is the transfer burn, where we're raising Dragon's apogee, or the highest point of its orbit, to just 2.5 kilometers below station. And then we round everything out with a final co-elliptic burn to once again maintain a constant orbit beneath station, this time just 2.5 kilometers below.
And then we'll get into the approach initiation and final stages of Dragon's rendezvous with the space station. This is also when we start integrated operations between the Dragon control team here in Hawthorne and the space station flight controllers in Mission Control Houston. The teams will transition to integrated operations roughly 45 minutes prior to approach initiation. During the approach, SpaceX flight controllers will work in tandem with the NASA team in Houston to activate and test out a number of systems on Dragon, including bidirectional communications with the station using the C2V2 system, which stands for Common Communications for Visiting Vehicles, and sets up a data stream from Dragon to the station, giving another path for Dragon telemetry to come to the ground and giving an additional command capability to astronauts aboard the station. They'll also maneuver Dragon to the proper altitude and initialize the navigation sensors used for the methodical approach to station.
Tomorrow at approximately 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, Draco thrusters on Dragon will fire for the approach initiation burn when Dragon is about 2.5 kilometers below station and just about 7 kilometers behind it. This will swing Dragon up until it's about 400 meters directly below the station. This maneuver will also move Dragon inside one of the 2 safety zones around the station that requires a set of go-no-go poles with the different control teams. The first zone is called the approach ellipsoid, which is an imaginary shape measuring 4 by 2 by 2 kilometers, essentially a large 3-dimensional oval. Before Dragon is given permission to move inside of this ellipsoid, referred to by the teams as the AE, it is configured to be on what is known as a 24-hour safe trajectory. This means that if Dragon lost all control to its thrusters, it would be at least 24 hours before its orbital path would take it inside of the approach ellipsoid.
And once Dragon arrives at 400 meters below station, it will be at waypoint 0, the first checkpoint during our approach. The vehicle can hold at 400 meters or continue on if all systems check out to approach to waypoint 1. By this point, the teams will do a go, no-go for Dragon to move inside the keep-out sphere, another zone that consists of an imaginary sphere around station with a radius of 200 meters. It gives us another chance to confirm all of the guidance, navigation, and control systems are working correctly on Dragon before moving closer to station. And it carries a requirement similar to the AE that if Dragon's orbital trajectory would not bring it inside that...
SpaceX for suit offing.
And go ahead for suit offing.
Okay, at this time, cabin environments are looking good. So we can give you go for 4.012 and 4.300 for suit offing, and we are reconfiguring cameras now.
Okay, Dragon copies. We are go for 4.012, 4.300, and you're reconfiguring cameras. And then I want to confirm one more time on the thermal loop caution or warning. We are good that you do expect to clear both of those. Clear that caution.
That's affirmative, yeah. We're currently working on just cleaning up fitter. The response that occurred was both Loop Alpha and Bravo. They both saw the spike, which resulted both of them in tripping fitter, and then we failed over to basically a min.
Okay, which copy? You're cleaning up fitter right now, and so MS1 and pilot will be getting out of their seats and starting the suit offing.
All right, a lot there from Crew Dragon and the core.
And Dragon SpaceX, I copied your last call. We were in a teacher's handover. Have some more words on procedure deltas.
And go ahead for procedure deltas.
On 4.012, note that the large outer bags to dispose the comfort garments are with the suit storage bags in location 17. And on 4.300, note that the waste duffel is already installed and steps 1.2 and 1.3 are complete.
Okay, we copy. Large outer bags are with the suits, and the waste bag is already installed.
Good read back, and I'll keep you posted as we clean up the TCS.
Drag cups.
Hearing it directly from the astronauts themselves, they are go to doff their suits. They've had them on for quite a while today, and they are able to get into some more comfortable clothes. And so, as you heard, they're also reconfiguring the cameras inside Crew Dragon to give them a little bit of privacy up there on orbit, as well as the thermal control system. They're working at clearing those issues, but everything so far looking good for Dragon.
Dragon's move from waypoint 0 to waypoint 1 will swing it up and out in front of the station, pausing at a distance of approximately 220 meters. At this point, it will be on what we call the docking axis, which essentially means that it's directly in front of the docking port. The crew is headed to the forwardmost port on the International Space Station, the Node 2 forward port. That is where Dragon docked for both our demonstration missions and where one of the 2 international docking is located. These were installed for new commercial spacecraft flights and any other future spacecraft that also use the International Docking Standard.
And once Dragon is only 20 meters away at waypoint 2, the spacecraft focuses on aligning its docking system with the docking adapter. Dragon will then fly in and make contact with the IDA, giving us what we call soft capture. The soft capture ring then retracts until sensors indicate it's time for hooks to drive in place to give us a hard capture and firmly secure Dragon to station. And then it's time for leak checks and hatch opening, which is currently timelined to come about 2 hours following docking.
So we have a lot of action to cover for the next 27.5 hours. Let's head down to Mission Control Houston and check back in with Shaniqua Vereen to get a rundown of all the work being done on the station to prepare for Dragon's arrival. Shaniqua?
Thanks, Jesse. A lot of work has been done on the space station before we got to this day to make sure we're launching Dragon and this new crew to a fully functioning orbital laboratory. Several hours before the crew boarded Dragon, the space station team did their own go-no-go poll. There are several key systems we have to ensure are functioning properly before NASA can give a go for launch. One of the more obvious is making sure our life support systems are functioning normally. This includes the ability to turn water into oxygen for the astronauts to breathe, the ability to remove carbon dioxide exhaled by station crew into the atmosphere, and our water recovery system, which is now able to recycle about 90% of the water we send to station. We have redundant or backup systems on both the U.S. and Russian segments on the station, just in case we need to take something offline for repairs. The teams also made sure that there were no faults or issues with the station's power or cooling systems. The station's massive solar arrays generate electricity for all the hardware we have on board. All those electronics inevitably generate heat. We utilize an active cooling system using ammonia and radiators to keep everything running at a stable temperature. We also work with our Russian counterparts to ensure both means of controlling the station's attitude or
Dragon
which way it's
SpaceX
pointing are fully functional. On the U.S. side, we have large gyroscopes spinning in the station's truss that are used to stabilize and orient the station on a day-to-day basis. On the Russian segment, we have large thrusters that can be called upon to use fuel stored on board to maintain the station's attitude.
Alerts ahead of the burn.
Okay, we copy. You're still working the TCS issue.
Yeah, good copy. However, that's not a blocker.
And say that again.
Yeah, copy on the TCS issue. However, that is not a blocker to the burn.
And we copy that.
We'll end up using both once it's time for Dragon to dock, switching to Russian thrusters in the final phases of approach, which can respond faster to any forces felt by station from Dragon's thrusters, and then back to gyroscopes, which are normally smoother and ensure Dragon's docking hooks can deploy successfully. Right now, the Expedition 64 crew aboard the station is still asleep, but they're scheduled to wake up at midnight here in Houston, 6 a.m. GMT on Monday to prepare for Dragon's docking.
This is the crew resilience on the cabin mic comms.
NASA astronaut and Expedition 64 flight engineer Kate
Hello,
Rubins
Victor.
will
I've
be
got you
monitoring
loud and
Dragon's
clear on the
approach.
cabin mic.
How's it going, Jay? Great to hear your voice.
Likewise.
We're hearing good calls from the core on Dragon to ground. But as I was stating, flight engineer Kate Rubins will be monitoring Dragon's approach using special software to make sure Dragon is flying in the expected areas, and she will be on standby to help in any abort scenarios. Once docked, she'll be primed for setting up the hardware on the station side to get ready for hatch opening and pre-positioning some ducting that will use to integrate Dragon's atmosphere with the rest of the station. So a lot of work done already, and the station team
Dragon
remains
SpaceX ready
for Dragon to arrive in just about 27.5 hours. For now, back over to Jesse and Leah to take us through the next steps for Dragon.
Yeah, we are going to take commands to clear the fault flag on loop Bravo and then loop Alpha, and that should put both loops running at half speed.
Thanks, Shaniqua. We are...
Okay, you're going to clear the fault on Bravo, then Alpha, then they should both be running at half speed for nominal ops.
Good copy, and we're putting that in work now.
Dragon.
And it sounds like they were discussing those TCS thermal control system issues. They are putting both Loop A and Loop Bravo, Loop B, at 50% so that they can run nominal operations. But looks like we are getting ready to move into the phase burn.
Yes, we are. So we're waiting for Dragon to move into that phase burn. And as we mentioned earlier, there are 5 major burns where Draco thrusters will ignite and bring the spacecraft close to the station before we begin final approach maneuvers. Our initial orbit after Dragon separated from Falcon 9 was 210 by 190 kilometers. Those values represent the orbit apogee, or the highest point over the Earth, and the perigee, or the lowest point over the Earth. That means that the orbit isn't a perfect circle, and we're going to see Dragon raise its orbit using the Draco thrusters over the coming hours as it chases down the space station.
So as we mentioned, the first major burn is the phase burn, which is performed at the first apogee of the initial orbit and raises Dragon
SpaceX settling burns have started. Just a reminder to minimize any dynamic movements during the burn, but okay to continue suit offing.
Okay, Dragon copies. We are into the settling burns, and Wilco on minimize movement during the actual burn.
And still preparing for that burn, but it'll raise Dragon's perigee, the lowest point of its orbit, to a higher altitude. This burn will use the Draco thrusters located on the forward bulkhead. That's the very top of Dragon under the nose cone, which is now deployed. It'll also use the thrusters around the service section or the lower part of the Dragon capsule. The thrusters located on the bulkhead are primarily used for these delta velocity burns, which will gradually raise Dragon's orbit over the coming hours.
Dragon SpaceX for TCS.
And go ahead for TCS.
We have cleared the alerts, and Loop Alpha is back up, looking nominal right now. We're going to continue to monitor, but we are going to clear the alerts on the board.
Okay, Loop Alpha is up. We see that both are at half speeds, and you're going to clear the alerts off the board.
Good readback. Yeah, and this is the nominal configuration.
And Dragon copies.
And great news from the core crew operations
and Dragon SpaceX, just for timeline awareness, burn is in about just under 1 minute.
And copy that. We see it starts in 40 seconds. And just for your awareness, both MS-1 and pilot are out of their suits, and they're getting them strapped into their seats this time.
Copy all.
And the phase burn should begin in just a few seconds from now. As you heard, the crew are still doffing their suits. They're allowed to continue moving around the capsule as long as they don't impart any forces on the capsule itself. Additionally, great news that the TCS thermal control system is in a nominal configuration, as they suspected that pump is still functional, and so Crew Dragon continues its journey to the International Space Station. Looking good.
Yeah. Now, in addition to those 4 bulkhead Draco thrusters that Leah was mentioning earlier, there are 12 more Dracos in the service section, which is the area along the lower part of the Dragon capsule. These will be used in every burn and are primarily there to help maintain Dragon's altitude, which is especially important when doing the finely tuned approach into docking. They can also be used for smaller transitional maneuvers as well. And we're just waiting for confirmation of that phase burn.
The view on the right side of your screen here is pretty impressive, I have to say. That's the International Space Station. That's from the International Space Station. It's solar arrays specifically, and it's currently flying, let's see here, over the South Pacific Ocean, about 267 statute miles above Earth. So Crew Dragon is continuing its pursuit of the International Space Station, and that's where you can find it right now. Still awaiting confirmation of the beginning of the phase burn. And actually, phase burn has begun. We are a minute underway, so good news there. And it should last about 9.5 minutes, as we mentioned, raising the perigee, or the lowest point of Dragon's current orbit, to a higher altitude. Got a lot of milestones coming up. You know, there were a lot in the countdown to the mission, but there is still a lot to go as it continues its approach to the space station. The next really major milestone comes at 1:10 a.m. Pacific time. Oh, and we're getting words that the burn is proceeding nominally, so that's good. But tomorrow morning, actually, it'll be 4:10 a.m. Pacific time, or Eastern time. The Crew Dragon crew will get some much-needed shut-eye. It's been a long day for them. And we try not to really do any burns while they're asleep. We want to give them the opportunity to sleep, because those burns, you know, might be a little bit loud, might wake them up. So the next burn will be the boost burn. That won't come until 8:20 a.m. Pacific or 11:20 a.m. Eastern time. So those are just a couple of the things we can look forward to on Dragon's journey to the International Space Station. As we mentioned, though, those are just 2 of the 5 burns. We'll also have the close burn, That comes at 9:02 a.m. Pacific, 12:02 p.m. Eastern. The transfer burn at 2:45 Pacific and 5:45 Eastern, and then the co-elliptic burn. Once these burns, these major burns are complete, we'll be done with the rendezvous phase, and then we'll move into the approach initiation phase. So as we mentioned, we are in the phase burn right now. We're getting good information that phase burn is proceeding nominally. It's about a 9.5 minute burn. Afterward, that's actually raising Dragon's perigee, the lowest part of its orbit, as we mentioned, and that'll put us in place for the boost burn. The boost burn will not take place until tomorrow morning when the astronauts are starting to wake up. They might not be awake just yet. And after the boost burn, which will raise the apogee, or the highest point of Dragon's orbit, to 10 kilometers lower than the station, we will find the closed co-elliptic burn. That's about 45 minutes after the boost burn, and it'll put Dragon's orbit roughly co-elliptic with the space station. That means that 10-kilometer orbit below station will be where Dragon stays around the Earth. Afterward, we have the transfer burn. That will adjust Dragon's apogee, the highest point of its orbit, to just 2.5 kilometers lower than the station orbit. And then the final co-elliptic burn about 45 minutes after the transfer burn, putting Dragon into an orbit co-elliptic with the station about 2.5 kilometers below it the entire way around the Earth. As we mentioned, after that, the rendezvous is complete, and we'll still be about 30 kilometers behind the station at that time. We'll have the approach initiation burn afterward. This, as we mentioned, is beginning that approach phase.
Yeah, and all of these burns, there's several different burns. They're all doing a different thing for Dragon, but basically it's a very precise maneuver to get to the station. It's very important to make sure that we get there slowly and steadily and make our way right in front of the docking port. So every single one of these burns is extremely important and extremely precise.
Absolutely. And I think it's almost dinner time.
Yeah, I think they're getting ready for a meal coming up in just about a few minutes here, about 12 minutes at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. The crew will have their first meal on board Dragon, and they have enough food on board Dragon for 12 meals each, along with snacks for the trip up. And these are MREs, or meals ready to eat. They're essentially prepackaged meals ready for consumption without any heating or additional ingredients. And they also have 55 liters, or about 14.5 gallons of water with them.
Yeah, and these are a little bit different. Actually, they might be a good bit different from their food that they can expect on the International Space Station. MREs, like you said, meals ready to eat. They don't require any work, which sounds like a dream sometimes to me personally. I love that kind of food.
No cooking.
But they just have to open the package and they can eat their dinner. Whereas on the International Space Station, we have thermostabilized food for some of the options, and the astronauts can. There's a small nozzle on each package, and they can plug that into a water source, which will they can turn it to the correct temperature setting that reads on the package, and put the water in. They'll mesh it around a little bit, make sure it gets all of the food heated up, and then it's ready to eat. So that system isn't on Crew Dragon because it's really only for short destinations. So MREs for now.
Yeah, it sounds very convenient with that small space inside of Dragon, that they don't have to do all that cooking and rehydrating of their food. They can just pull out their food and eat it right then and there.
Yeah, and it also means you don't have to wait on everybody else to heat up their food before you get to heat up your food. So everybody can eat dinner at the same time. And a reminder, we are still in the phase burn. And a little under 3 minutes left. Dracos are looking good. Burn is proceeding nominally. It was a 9.5 minute burn. We are standing by for more information As we continue, this burn, as we said, will raise the apogee, the highest point of Dragon's orbit, to 10 kilometers lower than the International Space Station. That beautiful view on the right-hand side.
We are just waiting on that phase burn to complete. It is about a 9-minute burn, and it should be closing here shortly in about a minute or so, but we'll wait for that call out and that confirmation.
And everything we've heard so far is that the burn is proceeding nominally. All of the Dracos are performing well. The first of 5 major burns for the crew on their way to the International Space Station. International Space Station will be their home for the next 6 months, and a really interesting fact is this flight today makes Soichi Noguchi only the 3rd person ever to fly on 3 different spacecraft. So he has flown on the space shuttle, on a Russian Soyuz, and now Crew Dragon, and the only other 2 people who have done that are Wally Schirra and John Young. So wow. He's joining a very select few with this milestone.
It's amazing. We are still waiting for that phase burn confirmation. We are getting some really awesome views of Earth.
Yeah, that never gets old.
I wonder what the crew members are thinking, especially Victor, if this is his first time, you know, in space, seeing the world in this view here. That's incredible.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal burn.
Okay, we copy nominal burn, and we'll be getting into 4.300 here shortly.
Copy, getting into 4.300 shortly, and we can confirm there will be no out-of-plane burn.
Okay, copy that. No out-of-plane burns.
And there's that confirmation of that phase burn is complete and nominal.
And we won't be needing the out-of-plane burn either, which would be in case Crew Dragon needed its journey adjusted just a little bit. So it sounds like they are on the right path as well. But yes, good confirmation of the phase burn, the first of 5 major burns as Crew Dragon makes its way to the International Space Station. So we do have 27 hours, and we would love to answer some of your questions on social media. So if you're curious about some aspect of today's crew mission, please submit your question with the hashtag AskNASA, and we'll try our best to answer it. This first one comes from Nico, who wants to know why it takes about 27 hours to reach the space station on this flight compared with about 8 hours if we had launched yesterday. And I think the key word is phasing. It really just depends on phasing, but also it doesn't necessarily take Crew Dragon 27 hours to reach the International Space Station. It just takes long enough that our crew is going to need a sleep period in that time. So we had to factor in a sleep period. That way they are alert and cognizant and ready to step in case anything needed to be done manually on the mission. So it is a bit longer, but we're here for the whole thing, and you can join us.
Sounds very smart that they plan in sleep, because I don't know if I went all day, 24 hours trying to make it to the station and then trying to function. So I'm glad that they'll get some rest in during their trip there.
Absolutely. Another good question, the Crew Dragon of the Crew 1 mission. Is this a new capsule, or is this the refurbished DM2 vehicle? You want to take that?
This is a brand new vehicle for Crew 1. We did not refurbish Demo 2 for this specific mission. So it is a brand new capsule. These are the first 4 astronauts that get to fly on this vehicle. So it must be really exciting for them to get to fly on not only a new spacecraft, but a new vehicle itself as well.
Absolutely, and very cool is that the Demo 2 vehicle, Endeavor, which is what Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley named it, that will be the vehicle for Crew 2 coming up next year. And so I also learned that it will keep its name, Endeavor. The new crew won't rename it moving forward, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually is going to be a really exciting flight because we will also be refurbishing the first stage booster on today's flight for Crew 2 as well.
As we get some more beautiful views from the International Space Station on the right-hand side. Let's see, it's currently flying. It's actually about to enter an orbital sunset, or an orbital nighttime, I should say. The International Space Station flies at 17,500 miles an hour, and so it's orbiting Earth, and it sees 16 sunrises and sunsets a day. So while it looks beautiful right now, it's coming up toward Mexico, and will be entering the orbital nighttime.
Dragon SpaceX for next burn.
And go ahead for the next burn.
Stand by.
Roger, standing by.
But I was mentioning it's, and a really cool view right now. You can see the Cygnus resupply, commercial resupply spacecraft on the International Space Station. Those 2 solar arrays that look like symbols makes it really easy to spot. And that actually brought up some of the science that Crew 1 is going to be working on while they're on the space station. We'll chat a little bit more about that later.
Awesome. So we have another question here from NASA. At NASA, when do you get to contact family when in space?
That's a good question, and you know, it's very fortunate. The astronauts, I've actually heard many say, especially if they were in the military, they were able to speak with their families more on the space station than they were, you know, while deployed sometimes. And so they get the opportunity to FaceTime, or I guess.
And SpaceX from Dragon for suit off steps.
Dragon SpaceX, go ahead.
Hey Jay, as we mentioned earlier, MS-1 and pilot are complete with their suit doffing. We've completed 4.300, and Commander and MS-2 are going off umbilicals at this time to start the suit doffing.
Copy, MS-1 pilot complete, and Commander and MS-2 are starting their suit doffing now and complete with 4.300. And I'm ready for that burn.
And I'm ready. Okay, yeah, go ahead and give us the words on the burn.
Okay, the boost burn is as scheduled, currently showing 16:20:42 UTC. However, ahead of that time, we may or may not take additional phase burns or out-of-plane burns, but we're not currently, there's nothing the vehicle's planning right now.
Okay, we copy. So the next burn is currently that boost burn at 16:20. However, there could be some additional burns in between, but nothing at this time.
Correct, and we'll keep you posted if that changes.
Dragon copies. Hey, Jay, one last thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the view is beautiful.
Outstanding. Yeah, take lots of pictures for us, and also have some words for you from C.
Okay, copy, and we are ready for the words from CE.
Yeah, resilience. On behalf of SpaceX, thanks for flying Falcon and Dragon, and safe travels.
And thanks, Han, to the entire Falcon 9 team. Well done. That was one heck of a ride. There was a lot of smiles. I don't know if you could see on the video. But also to the SpaceX recovery and launch teams and all of the NASA teams and DoD teams. You know, we wouldn't be up here in Leo without your support. Making history is definitely hard, and you guys all made it look easy. And again, congratulations to everyone. Resilience is in orbit.
Thank you so much, and travel safely.
Thank you.
Some amazing words from the crew on board, and what you're looking at on your screen is actually live views from Dragon itself, from Resilience right now. So we are getting to see what the crew is seeing as well on board.
And they did say it was beautiful, and I have to agree. I don't know if there's ever a time you're flying over and it's not beautiful.
Right.
So it has to be a very interesting first flight for Victor, and getting to share it with people he's very close with is really cool too.
Right, I can't even imagine.
So getting back to Rohan's question, when do you get to contact family when in space? As I mentioned, the astronauts do have scheduled times they can video chat with their families. They also have a phone which they can dial their families from up there. So they get to talk with them pretty frequently, sometimes daily, and I think maybe weekly for the video conferences.
Yeah, it sounds really convenient, and probably something that they could really use while they're away for 6 months. And it sounds like they'll get to video chat. At least they've gotten some practice with the pandemic doing video chatting. So hopefully they're used to it, but really amazing that they get to still communicate with their families back on Earth.
I know, I was thinking the same thing. It's been very similar this year. You know, we're all getting a little taste of what it's like to be an astronaut on a long duration mission and having to be just a little bit isolated, you know, in your own space for an extended period of time, and life just becomes much more virtual. And so I think we can understand just a little bit more what it's like to be in their shoes or their suits.
Right. Now again, the next milestone coming up is their crew meal. We are waiting for them to start their meal as they watch this amazing view. That's what you see on your screen. This is the view from Dragon, from Resilience. This is what the crew members get to see on their way to the International Space Station.
Yeah, and they're still getting into their more comfortable clothes right now before we get into that meal. And I'm not sure what they're having for dinner, but I heard what they had for breakfast. And it sounded pretty delicious, whether it was a medium rare steak, I heard, I think a medium burger, some curry.
Right.
I'm having a really easy time remembering all of these things because they sound so good.
Again, we are waiting for the crew to finish getting out of their suits and getting comfortable and getting ready for their midday meal.
It's they each get 12 meals while they're on this flight, or they each have 12 meals. I don't know if they'll need to eat 12 meals on the way or in 27 hours. I think I could do it, but they also have some snacks, so they are well prepared for their journey to the International Space Station. And let's see, it's been a little over an hour from launch now. It's been an hour and 7 minutes to be specific. So I think we have about 26 more to go, and they should be getting settled in, getting out of those suits and looking forward to dinner.
And that hour went by so fast. I feel like we just lifted off. But yeah, I'm waiting for the crew to start their midday meal. They are getting comfortable inside of Dragon now that they're coasting, so out of their suits into some more comfortable clothes. And they are going to be eating MREs, which are meals ready to eat. And as we mentioned earlier, they are meals that they don't have to rehydrate, they don't need to heat up, they could just pull them out and just start eating.
And I wonder what that is. But a good reminder, on the right side of your screen is Mission Control Hawthorne, and that's the teams that are looking all over all of the Crew Dragon systems. We also have Mission Control Houston in Houston, Texas, and that's NASA's Mission Control Center. And a good view of Mission Control Houston. Feels a little bit like home for me. But they will really come into play tomorrow once we begin joint operations as the Crew Dragon gets a little bit closer to the International Space Station, because then we have two vehicles in play. We've got the International Space Station when we've got Crew Dragon. So our teams here are monitoring the International Space Station, teams in Hawthorne really still looking over Crew Dragon systems.
Again, if you're just now joining us, we did have an on-time liftoff of our Crew 1 mission today, and now we are coasting on Dragon. We are waiting for the crew to start their midday meal, as they are getting comfortable inside of Dragon right now as they coast towards the International Space Station.
Yeah, and just a little bit of a reminder, you know, it's been a little bit since we talked about who's on our crew. We've got all of their first names out there, but Victor Glover, he's the pilot of the spacecraft. This is his first space flight, and he was selected in 2013. And so his training takes a couple of years. Any astronaut training takes a couple of years. And he was officially an astronaut in 2015. He was also a commander in the U.S. Navy. So he was a naval aviator. He was a test pilot in the F-18 Hornet, and he mentioned earlier in the video we watched about him all of the hours he had flying, but this being the first time he'll get to go over a certain altitude and actually reach space. So I know it's a huge milestone for him today.
Yeah, he knew that exact number, that exact height that he's reached. So now he's reached new heights. I wonder what he's feeling right now.
I can only imagine. And it's been a little while since they ate. I think I heard somebody joking about, I hope they weren't too nervous, but it's been a while. I'm sure he's fine. Mike Hopkins is the commander of the spacecraft. He's sitting next to Victor. We are looking right to left. He's sitting on Victor's left, but our right of Victor. He was selected in 2009, and he has spent 166 days in space already aboard the International Space Station. So feels like home to him, I'm sure. He was part of the Expedition 3738 crew. And he was a colonel in the U.S. Air Force as well. So those are our military folks aboard the spacecraft. We have Victor, who is in the Navy, and we have Mike, who is in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And additionally, Shannon Walker, she was selected in 2004. She's a Houston native, so she didn't really have to relocate to come work at Johnson Space Center. She holds a doctorate of philosophy in space physics, which is incredibly impressive to me. And she began her career as a robotics flight controller for the International Space Station. So she was very familiar with the space station, and then she actually lived there. She spent 163 days on station. In 2010, she was part of Expedition 24 and 25. And I think it says something about, you know, we're 20 years on the space station now as of November 2nd. And now we're on Expedition 64, so we've come quite a long way. And our next crew member is actually one of our international partners. He's with the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency. That is Soichi Noguchi. He apparently is the funniest one on the crew, according to all of the crew members. And just from watching their videos together, I think I agree. He's pretty funny. He was selected as an astronaut in 1996, and he's actually flown, as we mentioned, on the space shuttle. He flew on STS-114, and that was in 2005. He did 3 spacewalks then, and then he became the first Japanese astronaut to perform a spacewalk at the space station. So he's racking up the titles now.
I know.
Because he also flew in 2010 as Expedition 2223 and spent 163 days in space then. That was aboard a Soyuz. And then today he's now flying on Crew Dragon, so he is now one of 3 people to have ever flown on 3 spacecraft.
He's got a lot of experience. That sounds pretty amazing and pretty hard to do, I would assume. Well, let's take some more social questions. But if you have any questions that you'd like us to answer, please at NASA and use the hashtag #AskNASA, and maybe we'll get to read your question and be able to answer it. So we've got one here. How many different sections make up the ISS?
Well, it's very interesting. The ISS, or the International Space Station, if you're watching, this is kind of, it's not in flux by any means. It is complete, but we are seeing new pieces continuing to be added, like the Bigelow Expandable Activity Module. That is, as it sounds, an expandable module attached to the International Space Station. And then we're also going to have a brand new airlock added. So the number continues to grow, but it's owned by, I guess you could say, different countries around the world. It really is international. You know, we have a European module, we have the US modules, we have Russian modules, we have the Canada arm, and others I'm sure I'm forgetting. So it's quite large. It's actually the same interior volume of a Boeing 747. If you took all the seats out of a Boeing 747, I think I could make myself comfortable.
And just goes to show you how important teamwork is, right? We have all of these countries working together, and that makes up the International Space Station, which is incredible. And now we have more crew members, a diverse set of crew members on their way to join the other astronauts on board the International Space Station.
This next question, what is the difference between previous missions and the current mission, apart from the number of astronauts? So as we saw earlier this year, DM2, actually DM stands for demonstration mission. So that was still a test flight. We had Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley live on the International Space Station for a couple of months. But this time Crew Dragon is certified as a vehicle that can fly to and from the International Space Station. It's not a test anymore. This is the real deal for these 4 astronauts. Another, I think, very interesting thing is it is in relation to the number of astronauts, but this is the first ever 4-person capsule.
Right.
So that's a pretty interesting difference in this mission.
Right, and the capsule is made to have up to 7 crew members, but this mission has 4. And also another difference between Demo 2 and this mission is that Bob and Doug actually had, because it was a test flight, they actually did have some work to do while they were coasting to the International Space Station, whereas today the crew members are actually enjoying their ride most of the time all the way to the station, since this is an official commercial flight. So we've got another question. How many times has the Falcon 9 that was used today been launched? Well, this was a brand new first stage booster, so it's only been launched once, and just an hour ago, about a little over an hour ago. But we are very excited that we are planning to use this same booster for Crew 2 next spring. So that will be its second launch, but just to answer the question, this booster has only launched one time.
And this one, why do they stay up in the space station for 6 months? Well, we are looking to go to the moon and Mars, and the best place to test out what it's like to live for an extended period of time in microgravity is here in low Earth orbit, because it's much, I'm not going to say easy, it's never easy to get anywhere in space, but it's not as difficult to get to and from the space station as it would be to get to and from the moon or to and from Mars. And so living that long on the International Space Station gives us the opportunity to evaluate how astronauts' bodies adapt when they are in microgravity for that amount of time. That helps us prepare for those long duration missions. Additionally, because they're very busy, they've got hundreds of science experiments that they're working on at any one time. Over the past 20 years, we've completed over 3,000 science experiments aboard the International Space Station, and so many of them really benefit life on Earth. So they may be up there for a while, but it's all for a very good reason.
Yeah, it sounds like a 2-for-1. If you're going to go out to Mars, that is a much longer journey. much harder to get back to Earth. So I think these small, almost short sprints in comparison, even though it's 6 months, 6 months is a long time to us, it does make sense. It's like training to get ready for these longer missions, right?
And we're still just waiting for the crew members to have their dinner. And as we mentioned, we're taking these Ask NASA questions. So if you have one, use that hashtag Ask NASA on Twitter. We'll be on the lookout. Another one, what is the most crowded the International Space Station has ever been? And the number is 13. So we had 6 expedition crew members and then 7 on a space shuttle docked to the International Space Station. And when our crew members arrive tomorrow, they will more than double the current residents on the International Space Station. There are currently 3 people on board. We've got Sergei Kutsverchkov, Sergei Rizikov of the Roscosmos Russian Space Agency. We've got astronaut Kate Rubins on board. And so adding 4 tomorrow makes 7, which we have not had 7 long-duration crew members on the International Space Station in quite a while.
7 doesn't sound too bad compared to 13, so hopefully they have enough space to be able to, maneuver around for the next 6 months. So we've got another social question. What's the new crew going to be working on for the next 6 months?
Well, we talked about some of the science, and some of the science, as we mentioned, happens on their bodies. They take biological samples that are then compared to ones that were taken before they launched. And then they're taken some more once they get back, and that's all in comparison to how their body adapts to microgravity. We heard someone speaking about tissue chips earlier. They can.
It's so cool.
It's so cool. It's totally beyond me, but you can put organs on chips, and essentially it gives them a better idea, it gives scientists an easier look at how potential drugs affect organs, and also just helps us to develop things that may eventually heal or treat some of what we deal with on Earth.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing all the updates on some of these science experiments, especially the tissue chips one.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit more about science later, because we have quite a list of just examples. But let's see this one. Will Crew 2 arrive before Crew 1 departs? And will there be any overlapping arrivals and departures?
Oh, that's a really good question. So the timing is actually Crew 1 should return prior to liftoff of Crew 2. That's the schedule so far, but it might actually overlap when we do lift off Crew 2. So we don't have the exact schedule just yet, so we will have to wait to see when we announce those schedules.
I think actually we will have a direct handover. Crew 2 will arrive at the International Space Station, and then Crew 1 will leave. So we'll have 2 Crew Dragons on the space station at one time. That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah.
This one, do you have plans to take 7 people in a Dragon space capsule? You can talk a little bit more about that.
Well, Crew Dragon is made and designed to carry up 7 crew members. So there will be a time in the future to have a 7-member vehicle go up to the space station. But I believe Crew 2 is actually going to be another 4-person crew flight. But it is designed to have up to 7 crew members. So hopefully soon in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And NASA doesn't have any current plans to expand from that 4-person crew, but as you mentioned, Dragon can fly 7, so we will have to see one day, maybe on commercial missions, what we do with putting 7 people on board.
Yeah.
This question from Ashley, what do the boost burns do? The boost burn comes tomorrow morning. We are trying to let the crew get some sleep and not awake them with any burns. And so boost burn will raise their apogee, the highest point of their orbit, to 10 kilometers lower than the station. That'll be the second of those 5 major burns we talked about, propelling Crew Dragon toward the International Space Station. So that's the next burn we're looking forward to. We've just had the phase burn, everything looking well for Dragon. And we will not have a burn until tomorrow morning, so quite a bit of time in between that we're going to let the crew get a meal, get some sleep, and then wake up early tomorrow and get ready for their arrival to their new home on the space station.
Right, and as you mentioned earlier, if they do tread the course or go a little bit off course, they will use some extra phase burns if needed, but so far everything is looking good for that next burn being the boost burn. We've got another question. Do the astronauts have some place in the Dragon to sleep, or are they sleeping in their chairs?
They actually are sleeping in their chairs.
Yeah.
They can take off those foot restraints and stow those, so that's an option. It also gives them a little more room to float around inside the capsule. And it's a little more crowded this time with
4 people.
4 people instead of just 2. And so we have... we'll have that opportunity. They also have some window covers that they can put up inside Crew Dragon because, as we mentioned, they're going around the Earth every 90 minutes.
Right.
And that would really mess with your circadian rhythm if you couldn't get some good shut-eye, some good darkness for that full time. And so instead of going in and out of sunlight every 45 minutes, they're going to put up those window covers and hopefully feel like a real nighttime, get some real sleep.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, these are custom seats for them, so they are made for each one of the crew members, so they should be pretty comfortable, I would hope. So they should be able to get some good sleep, knowing that they are custom fitted for each crew member on board. So we have another question from John. How do they do laundry on the ISS? That's a really great question.
I love this question because I wish the answer was true for me. The answer is they don't. They don't do laundry on the International Space Station. They simply throw out their clothes. So,
oh, wow.
I know. So they can wear them a certain amount of times, and they may choose to bring some back with them. However, typically any older dirty clothes they can put on the commercial resupply vehicles that do not splash down or that just burn up in space. So there's not really a trash can, there's not a laundry machine on the space station. They put them inside of those vehicles that burn up in the atmosphere, and that takes care of that.
So if you don't like doing laundry, become an astronaut.
Yeah, that's a great point. I could do that.
We've got one more question. What personal items can you take to the ISS? You mentioned this earlier. They can only take approved items with them. So what are the approved items that NASA will allow the astronauts to bring with them?
A lot of astronauts choose to bring photos, and they'll put photos up because they have a very small, I guess you could call it bedroom. It's called crew quarters, but it's very small, and they put the photos, on the walls, remind them of home. It's probably their family, their friends, and these are personal items, so we don't necessarily always know what it is, but I've also seen, pieces of jewelry or just special mementos to them if they want to take to low Earth orbit and bring back. So those are just a few of the things that they've taken before.
And again, we are just waiting for the crew to begin their midday meal. So far, we've had an on-time liftoff of our Crew 1 mission. The astronauts are on Resilience right now, coasting along to the International Space Station. We did complete the phase burn, and then
sleep, but being in microgravity is pretty exciting, so I don't know if I could sleep.
Right.
So we'll be looking for them to have that meal, have a good 8 hours of sleep before the next burn tomorrow morning, the boost burn.
We are going to take a quick break, but we will be back. What you'll see on your screen is some live animation for where the crew is throughout their journey, but we'll be right back.